Religion.com. I'm here today with my co-host for the Cannabis Business Podcast. We got Ian Rassman. How you doing, Ian, bro?
I'm great, Joey. Always great hanging out with you.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here with you on this fine Monday morning. I know you got an 11 o'clock, so we're going to keep this episode short and quick. Everybody, for those of you guys watching, make sure you guys tap in, tune in, like, follow, and subscribe. Talk some shit. Ian has recently traveled to a bunch of places. So on today's very special third episode of this podcast, Ian, talk to me about your trips to ICBC in Berlin, Germany, where cannabis was recently legalized, as well as the Cannabis Summit in Hague. And I don't know what country that is, so you're going to have to just educate me here.
Yeah. So, well, actually, it started off as an amazing trip. I flew into Dallas for the eclipse. Remember, went totality right over Dallas. I flew in, the clouds parted, the weather cleared. I saw the eclipse, and I flew to Amsterdam like 6 hours after the eclipse. So the Hague is in Holland, and I went there to attend the Cannabis Summit. Cannabis Summit was an amazing conference. It was held at the World Horticultural Center, so really green environment. It was amazing. It's kind of on the southwest side of Holland, and a lot of people came from all around Europe and different parts of the world to attend the Cannabis Summit, and it was all about the Dutch experiment. So as we know, Holland has had a decriminalization attitude towards cannabis for decades. And I lived there in Holland in the 90s. And at that time, it was really almost the only place in the whole world where you could just go in and buy cannabis, right? Like we were just getting started with that here in California in 1996, but I moved to Holland right at that time. And you could just go into a coffee shop and buy it, without worrying about the police raiding it like they were doing routinely here in California at the time. So this conference was about the Dutch experiment. So the Dutch have been watching the rest of the world, make progress towards legalization. So they set up their own experiment to see how they might also enter into a legal regulated market versus the existing market that they have there today, which is, grown up kind of old school way. And people just kind of opened a coffee shop and the government wouldn't make too much of a fuss about it. And as long as there wasn't any trouble, there was never any concern. So people are allowed to possess cannabis in Holland, and they're allowed to buy it, and they're allowed to sell it, but they're not allowed to grow it and supply it. So like if it just falls out of the sky and lands at the coffee shop, then you can go in and buy it. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, some pieces of the puzzle are missing, but this is part of what the experiment is to bring in an official licensed supply chain. So today there's like 600 coffee shops in Holland. That's a fair bit of coffee shops. No surprise that the existing coffee shop infrastructure is not terribly interested in this new experiment. They're like, this has been working great for us for a long time. We're okay. And they're not like really excited about this new experiment. But
we saw that kind of reaction for most legacy operators pre we'll call it adult use or recreation.
Yeah, pre-med here in California for sure. We were seeing a lot of that. So anyway, the Cannabis Summit in The Hague was amazing. We had a lot of great speakers. It was at The Hague is a beautiful city. I hadn't spent much time in The Hague before. I've only been once or twice, so I got to spend a couple days there. I had the weekend after the conference was over, and I went into Amsterdam, about an hour and a half by train from The Hague, and I used to live there in Amsterdam in the 90s, right? So I was just kind of going on a nostalgic trip, walking around, seeing what's changed there it was 28 years ago this month that I moved there. So, and like 25 years ago since I left, and wow. A lot has changed in the cannabis scene. Some of the coffee shops, the more well-known ones like the Bulldog, have completely remodeled. They're in Leidseplein. They're in an old police station, which is really so cool. I think they opened up that spot in the early 90s, perhaps, bought an old police station right in the middle of one of the most popular squares in town and opened up a cannabis shop.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then the Grasshopper, which was a big cannabis shop closer to Central Station, and probably the first one that most tourists would see if they were arriving into Central Station and like walking off into the city. That's not a coffee shop anymore. It's got all the marquee and the signage like you think it was. And I went over there and they're like, "Oh no, we're just a restaurant and a bar now." I'm like, "Oh, what happened to the coffee shop portion? That's gone." One of my favorite shops was Damp Kring, and so I remembered where it was. Just walked straight over to it. It's still there. I went inside. It looks exactly like it did, 28 years ago. I don't think they've even repainted it on the inside. So some things have changed, some things have not changed. I feel like there was more coffee shops now than what there was when I lived there. Anyway, the Dutch experiment is still going on for a little while, and we shall see where all of that shakes out.
That's crazy
Uh,
to think about, man. So long that community has been operating a certain way, and over the last 20 years, 10 years, things have begun shifting and shifting and shifting and shifting, and now we're seeing potential legalization out there in Amsterdam. How cool in Holland? How cool is that?
yeah, yeah, actual legalization. So we'll see where that goes, and it'll be interesting. But I think a lot of the pressures come off of Amsterdam specifically in terms of their tourism, their cannabis tourism. Cannabis tourism was a huge thing going to Amsterdam, but I think it's not quite like that anymore. I mean, LA is quite honestly a better cannabis destination if you want to go on a cannabis tour and there's more action going on here in LA than there is in Amsterdam. Amsterdam's small, walkable, beautiful city, but they were really having a problem with over tourism on alcohol and the cannabis and all of this kind of culminating in the red light district there. They were just having behavior from the tourists that just wasn't great, and it was really kind of breaking the vibe. So
Yeah,
they stopped tourists from going into the cannabis cafes 2 years ago, but I think that kind of unwound a bit,
So,
and
so
back to where.
the event overall, though, you obviously were able to travel and go around and see a bunch of spaces and do what Ian does and as an adventurer in these cities.
Mhm.
Um, the summit overall positive, definitely a good experience.
Summit was amazing experience. A lot of education, great speakers. We had somebody from the European Parliament come in and speak about cannabis at the EU level, which is very interesting. We had somebody come in that's running for Parliament in Holland, and she spoke also about this Dutch experiment. So that was pretty amazing. I'd say the education was really top notch, and
I love to hear that. There's a lot of Europe has provided a lot of different kinds of agricultural education to the states and vice versa, right? And so pretty interesting to see Europe start to catch up at the regional scale and also too microcultural across these different areas.
yeah, I think Holland, specifically, you talk about learning agriculture from the Europeans. Holland, water management. Those guys know how to manage water. I mean, like most of the country is below sea level. So they are excellent at water management. They're excellent at greenhouses. We know that the world's tulip supply comes from all Holland. So they know how to grow things. And I think, should they start growing cannabis officially at a commercial scale, they'll obviously do quite well at it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait. There's really great regions that grow flowers, the Santa Barbara coast, and then obviously we've got Napa and wine, and Washington, Eastern Washington. There's great areas as well, and so it's going to be spectacular when some of those areas in Europe definitely start to catch up. Now, before we get you on here, I know we only got 2 minutes. Give me your 2 minute rundown of ICBC Germany.
Oh, ICBC in Germany. Well, ICBC is one of the great shows that I like to follow around the world. And I go to Germany, to Berlin every year for the Berlin show, which is probably their biggest show. This year it was incredibly special there because you know what happened on April 1st, and it wasn't no April Fool joke. Germany legalized cannabis on
Let's
April.
go.
this year. I mean, wow, this is the world's third largest economy after the U.S. and China, so it's no small thing that they have legalized cannabis. So
Huge.
it's really huge. So the excitement was palpable in the air, ICBC was a big event, a lot of education, a lot of speakers, and a lot of people coming to talk about, what's going to happen now. So cannabis legalized April 1st, but there's still really no place that you can go buy it. Starting in July, they're going to have cannabis clubs, and we're starting to understand what these clubs are going to look like. Each club will be limited to 500 members. Okay. So, and that's it. And then these members will pay like a monthly membership fee, and that monthly membership fee will be based on how much cannabis that you're going to need. So you're like in a club and you might sign up. I don't know what the numbers are, but let's just say you sign up for the $100 a month package. So now you're going to get X number of grams per month. And at least some of the cannabis clubs that I've been speaking with, it's going to be more like a takeout style, as opposed to a lounge where you can come and hang out and get some food. I don't see that happening yet. It's not to say that that won't, but right now it's more of a takeout style. You go,
Absolutely.
present your ID, they look you up, you're one of the members, and you get your cannabis. Now it's going to be interesting, right? Like, think about this. So, and you can, by the way, you can only be a member of one club. So what's that going to do for the consumer? I'm really curious, because let's just say you sign up for club number A, right? And that's your club, and that's where you get your cannabis. So they're going to have the products that they have, and that's it. Like, you can't go into club number B to check out their products. That's not where you're a member. So it feels like consumers are going to have to make a choice. I want to be part of this club. I want to be part of that club. And it seems like you'll be able to change clubs once per year. So it's going to be a thing, I think, for the clubs to retain their membership, and keep their members excited that, hey, we've got the products here that you're looking for, better, cheaper, more quality, whatever it is, to keep them from, leaving at the end of the year. And, well, maybe I want to go check out that club. So it's really going to be interesting to see how all that shakes out.
There's a lot going down in Europe, and Ian over here, based in Los Angeles, is at the forefront in a lot of these European shows. He's putting in the work to travel around, give us the scoop, the lowdown, and share his perspective. Ian, thank you again for being my host on the Cannabis Business Podcast. For everybody watching, this is a shorter episode. We got to get Ian on the road. Hope you guys enjoy it. Like, follow, subscribe. This was episode 3. We'll come at you guys once a month with just some updates, some promos, some recaps. And of course, if you guys need anything in the world of payment processing solutions, Ian is your guy. And please reach out to me too. If your guys' POS system went down on 420, please reach out. I'd love to get you guys connected to our homies at Trees. I'm Joey. This is Ian. We'll see you guys.